Seneca asserts, kindness without discernment is blind benevolence. Today, we will explore a fascinating topic that touches each of us in one way or another. If you've ever experienced the consequences of excessive kindness, or if you simply want to better understand how too much kindness can be detrimental to you, this video is for you. But before we begin, dear listeners, if you are already subscribed to our channel, a big thank you for joining us on this journey. And if you're not yet, you're in the right place for inspiring content that will give you a fresh perspective on the world. Just activate the notification bell to support this work done with love and devotion for you. This is the story of a man named David, who, due to his excessive kindness, saw his life take a direction he could never have foreseen. David was a good man with a generous heart, always ready to lend a hand to others, to be there for his friends, his family, and even strangers. But over time, he learned that kindness can have a flip side, a shadow that can darken our existence. The man with the big heart, he simply couldn't say no. Every time someone needed help, he was there, ready to offer his time, money, and a compassionate shoulder. David firmly believed in the inherent goodness of people and the importance of helping others. However, what had started as an admirable act of kindness gradually turned into an oppressive burden for David, leading him to discover the unpleasant consequences of his generosity. 1. The first way in which David's kindness began to ruin his life was as follows. He had too high expectations of others. You see, David used to give without expecting anything in return, but over time, he had come to hope that others would respond to his kindness in the same way. He had forged the idea that the love and kindness he offered should be returned with the same intensity. But unfortunately, reality was quite different. David often found himself disappointed, tired, angry, and even sad when others didn't meet his expectations. However, he began to realize that true kindness should not be conditional, but given selflessly. 2. The second way in which David's kindness ultimately ruined him was his reluctance to set boundaries. He was always there for everyone, day and night, week after week. By constantly being available, he had turned his life into a one-stop shop for services, advice, and assistance. Others had become accustomed to relying on him to solve everything. Unfortunately, this had made him lose precious time for his own needs and goals. He was so overwhelmed by the demands of others that he couldn't focus on his own personal fulfillment. David realized it was time to learn to say no, to set clear boundaries to preserve his time and energy while continuing to be kind. 3. The third way in which excessive kindness began to erode David's life was by sacrificing his own goals. He had become so accustomed to helping others achieve their dreams that he had neglected his own. The projects he had always dreamed of were put on the back burner, and his own well-being suffered. David realized that to help others authentically, he needed to take care of himself first and pursue his own aspirations. He was committed to restoring the balance between meeting the needs of others and achieving his own dreams. 4. The fourth way in which David's kindness had begun to affect his life was by making him appear weak. By constantly helping everyone, he had gained a reputation as someone who could always be relied on, but he was also perceived as someone weak. His friends and even strangers came to him to avoid their own responsibilities, knowing that he would never dare to say no. David had come to understand that to be respected, he needed to show that he could say no when necessary. However, he realized that saying no didn't mean being unkind or insensitive. It was a demonstration of his inner strength and his ability to make informed decisions. 5. The fifth way in which David's kindness had a negative impact was that it attracted people who only wanted to receive without ever giving in return. He had become a magnet for opportunists, for those looking to take advantage of his generosity without ever thinking about reciprocity. David understood that to build authentic relationships, he had to be selective about whom he helped. He began to distinguish genuine people who shared his kindness and were willing to give in return from selfish profiteers. 6. The sixth way in which kindness had impacted his life was by creating dependence. The people he had helped excessively had become dependent on his constant support, whether emotional or material. David realized that this didn't help them become self-sufficient. He began to encourage others to solve their problems on their own and offer tempered but meaningful support instead of doing everything for them. 7. The seventh way in which excessive kindness had begun to impact David's life was by exposing him to bad habits. His boundless generosity had sometimes led him to neglect his own health because he constantly put himself at the service of others. David realized that his own kindness should not come at the expense of his health. He began to set clear boundaries to preserve his physical and emotional well-being, remembering that taking care of oneself was essential to be able to help others. Of course, here is the development of the eighth point regarding how David's kindness had aroused suspicions in others. 8. The eighth and final way in which David's kindness had impacted his life was by arousing suspicions in others. By being constantly helpful, some of his close ones began to wonder about his true motivations. Why was he so kind? Questions began to arise, and it was not uncommon to hear whispers or comments about the true reason for his tireless generosity. David became aware of these emerging suspicions, and it prompted him to deeply reflect on his own kindness. He realized that genuine kindness should never be motivated by a desire to look good in front of others or gain their admiration. Instead, he understood that true kindness should be a reflection of his true character, innate goodness, and a sincere desire to help others. It should not be tainted by expectations of recognition, praise, or personal benefits. David learned that true kindness should be selfless, offered without ulterior motives. It should be a manifestation of his love for humanity, natural compass, Sion, and a willingness to bring some light into the lives of others without expecting anything in. This realization had been a turning point in David's life. He understood that true kindness was not a mask to wear to impress others, but a deep quality to cultivate within oneself. He began to practice kindness even more authentically, regardless of the suspicions or doubts of others. Ultimately, he realized that true kindness was a source of light, and this light should not be dimmed by selfish motivations or concern for what others thought of him. Kindness should shine on its own, guided by pure love and compassion. This eighth point had been a valuable lesson for David, urging him to practice kindness without reservation, with an open heart, and without expecting any rewards. It was the culmination of his journey toward finding a balance between generosity and self-preservation. Thank you for accompanying me on this enriching journey once again. I look forward to sharing more inspiring content with you in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell to stay connected.